All right, let's dive right into one of the all-time great tales of psychological horror. We're about to step inside the mind of one of literature's most famously unreliable narrators, and we're going to see just how a simple obsession can spiral into something truly terrifying. So, right from the get-go, our narrator throws this question right at us. It's a challenge. And, he's going to spend this entire story trying to prove he's sane. But the funny thing is, the more he insists he's got it all together, the deeper we sink into his madness right along with him. He doesn't see his condition as a weakness at all. No, he thinks of it more like a superpower. This hypersensitivity, this idea that he can hear things nobody else can, becomes the very lens he sees the world through. And as we're about to see, this so-called gift, it's going to be his complete undoing. So you gotta ask, right? If he's so sane, what was his motive? There must be some logical reason. But there isn't one. It wasn't about money, it wasn't revenge. It was something much stranger, something deeply, deeply irrational. It all comes down to this. The narrator gets this all-consuming obsession with the pale blue eye of the old man he lives with. He doesn't just dislike it, he sees it as something evil, something predatory, comparing it to the eye of a vulture. And man, it just chills him to the bone. And here's the really wild part, the key to his whole twisted logic. He's able to completely separate the man, who he claims he loved, from the eye, which he feels he has to destroy. In his mind, he isn't even planning on killing a person. He's just eliminating an evil object. And to prove how sane he is, what does he do? He brags about how careful and methodical his planning was. He really wants us to see his caution as proof of a clear mind. But what it really is a chillingly calm approach to a horrific goal. And get this, for a whole week, 7 nights straight, he performs this painstaking ritual. He moves so slowly it takes him an entire hour just to get his head through the doorway. But he can never do the deed because the one thing he hates, the eye, is always closed. And for him, it's not the man he has to kill, it's the eye. You know what's maybe the most disturbing part? The next morning. After spending all night stalking the old man, he just waltzes right into his room with a warm, friendly voice asking how he slept. There's no guilt, not even a hint of awareness. He actually thinks he's being clever, not, completely unhinged. All right, so now we get to the 8th night. This is where everything changes. All that careful planning, it all goes out the window, and things get intense fast. On this night, his thumb slips and makes a noise. The old man bolts upright in bed, terrified. And then, nothing. For a solid hour, they just sit there in the pitch-black silence. The narrator doesn't move a muscle. He's actually savoring the old man's fear. Finally, he uncovers the lantern, and a single ray of light lands right on the vulture eye. And this time, it's wide open. And that's when he hears it, a low, dull, quick sound, kind of like a watch wrapped in cotton. He knows instantly what it is. The old man's terrified heartbeat. His sharpened senses are kicking in, and they're about to push him right over the edge. The sound just keeps growing. And as it gets louder, it fuels his own rage. It's like the heart is drumming away, proving to him that he's right to hate that eye. But then his anger twists into a new kind of fear. He's suddenly terrified that a neighbor is going to hear that drumming sound through the walls. It's not just the old man's terror anymore. It's a ticking clock on his own crime. He's completely convinced the time has come that the heart might just burst and alert the entire world. So that's it. He rushes into the room with a yell, smothers the old man with a heavy bed, and the heart finally stops. The eye, he believes, will trouble him no more. So, the deed is done. And you'd think he'd be panicking, right? Not a chance. He believes he has committed the perfect crime. He's actually proud of how calm and collected he is, even while doing something so gruesome. I mean, just look at the pride he takes in his work. He dismembers the body, but he's careful not to spill a single drop of blood. He hides the pieces under the floorboards so perfectly, he's sure no one could ever notice. To him, this isn't monstrous. It's just more proof of his brilliant sanity and control. Then, a knock at the door. It's 4 a.m. It's the police. A neighbor heard a scream. But is our narrator afraid? Nope. He has an answer for everything. He calmly invites them in, claims the scream was his own in a nightmare, and then, get this, He brings them chairs and puts his own right over the very spot where the body is hidden. And this is where it all falls apart. As he's chatting away, a familiar sound starts. First, it's just a ringing in his ears, but then it becomes that low, quick beat again. It gets louder, and his calm just shatters. He's convinced the officers can hear it too, and that their friendly smiles are just them mocking him. Finally, he just can't take it anymore. The sound, the smiling. His composure completely breaks. He shrieks his confession, pointing to the floor, driven mad not by the crime itself, but by the inescapable sound of it. And that, right there, is the terrifying genius of this story. The narrator's sharpened senses, the very thing he was so proud of, they betrayed him. What he heard wasn't the old man's heart. It was the frantic, drumming pulse of his own conscience. And it really forces us to wonder, where does reality end and the haunting echoes of a guilty mind begin?